Hey folks, Kiltman here, Kiltman at your services. How are you all? You're all doing very, very well. Now, I'm trying to keep my head in this spec between Lon Chaney's Wolfman and Henry Hull's Werewolf of London, right behind me here. Yeah, we're going to discuss one of Universal's earlier classics, which is underrated, vastly neglected, and yet is supremely brilliant, yet horribly flawed at the same time. Werewolf of London from 1935, directed by Stuart Walker and starring Henry Hull as the Werewolf of London, and also the delicious, delectable Valerie Hobson, who was actually filming Bride of Frankenstein at the same time as this. And rumours has it that on the Universal backlot, a tunnel was connecting the sound stages from Werewolf of London to Bride of Frankenstein, where she plays Mrs. Frankenstein. And she's amazing. She's gorgeous, she is absolutely adorable, and she's only 17 years old. Yeah. Now, you go and check these things, as I have done, and all the factoids say that she's 18, and she's still horrifically young to be in these movies and play against much older guys who are meant to be her husbands. And but she's not. She's 17. She's 17 when she made these, but she looks way, way older. No detriment to her. She looks phenomenal. So, Werewolf of London. Yes, 1941, 6 years later, director George Wagner, screenwriter Kurt Siodmak, and of course the Lonster, Lon Chaney Jr., made Larry Talbot the Wolfman. And the Wolfman and its laws of the full moon and silver bullets made it sacrosanct in cinema, lycanthropic cinema ever since. But they'd done it before with this movie. And in fact, this wasn't even the first Universal werewolf movie. Back in 1910, there was a short, silent movie called The Werewolf. And it was a Native American tribal legend, folkloric tale. And it was a woman, a Native American, that became the werewolf. But sadly, you can't see it. Apart from one or two stills, which still exist, you can't see it because all prints of the movie were burnt out in a big warehouse fire. So, damn it, a bit of history has gone there. But so 1935, you'd had Dracula, you'd had Frankenstein's monster obviously, and now Carl Laemmle, head honcho of Universal, we need another monster now. We had the Invisible Man as well, and James Whale had done, the Boris Karloff Frankenstein and Claude Rains Invisible Man, done all that. So where are we going to go next? Werewolves. Let's do them, or in some cases, werewolves. That gets my underbite going. Werewolves. It's werewolves. So Stuart Walker, perhaps not the guy to do this kind of movie. He didn't direct many movies, but he did a lot of dramas and big stuff. He did Great Expectations, and that's how they got the lead guy for this movie, Henry Hull, who had played one of the leads in Great Expectations the year before, and Magwitch. And Henry Hull is the most unpersonable and unlikable lead in a movie that I've ever come across. You meant to sympathise with this guy, or are you? He is the Werewolf of London. Let's discuss. Right, so this movie. We start off in Tibet. Tibet! Yeah, the land of the Yeti, the abominable snowman. Legend, folklore, mysteriousness, and he's there with his friend to go and find this mysterious moonflower. Because he's a botanist, don't you know? A botanist. And these guys are big adventurers. So they've gone out and spent months and months and months away from good old England and to find this particular flower. Let's get the name of this flower because it changes. The Marophasa lumina lupina doesn't exist in real life. The Marophasa lumina lupina. It's those two bits which get reversed in the movie. I am pretty positive they get reversed when someone else says it. But they're out there trying to find this flower, this mysterious, only one of its kind in the world. We must find this. Why? Because you're a botanist and these things are important and science comes first. So we start off in Tibet. Tibet, day for night shooting. Universal, took themselves off to California and where did they go? Vasquez Rocks. Vasquez Rocks, folks, the slanted rocks, very, I don't know what Neolithic period they're from, but they are worldly famous because Star Trek had every episode on an alien planet. The vintage Star Trek, I'm talking James T. Kirk and Spock and Montgomery Scott and Uhura. They'd be on these planets with deserts and rocks and weird slanty angles. Vasquez Rocks. And many westerns would also film there as well because they're so iconic. But they double for Tibet. And they're there, him and his mate, and they're coolies, they're Tibetan workers, they're Sherpas, don't like the area. Oh no, we're not going up there. No, we can't do this. But they're jibber jabbering this in not Tibetan. They're doing it in Cantonese, and you will hear Henry Hull, our hero slash monster slash villain, Dr. Wilfred Glendon, the esteemed botanist. He speaks to them in supposedly their same lingo. They're speaking Cantonese. He's not. He's speaking pure and utter gibberish. But it kind of makes sense. And as they're all there, because these guys don't want to go any further into this rocky ravine. And suddenly, to make matters worse, some figure on a camel comes down through this ravine. And they all go, oh! And they run away. So our hero, Wilfred Glendon, and his buddy, whose name I have forgotten, approach this guy. And it's a white guy, and he's a priest, don't you know? And they say, well, you're the first white face we've seen in 3 months. And he says to them, well, you're the first I've seen in 40 years. Where are you going? Well, Father, I don't know how they know he's a priest. I'm not sure how this has been worked out. But where are you going? He says, oh, we're looking for this valley. We're looking for this mysterious moonflower. And it's a land of legend. And he goes, oh, you want to go into the valley of death, basically. I can't advise that, my sons. It's not wise. Don't go in there. But we have to. It's for science, and we've got to find these things. We've been out here for months and months. We must find this flower. It's all that keeps me going, keeps my heart beating. I must find this flower. He's very dedicated. And so, oh, well, you're very foolish if you venture into that valley beyond this ridge. You're very foolish. But without fools, we wouldn't have wisdom. Oh, there you go. Okay. Get out clause there. So, good luck with you, my sons. And all this kind of shit. And off he goes. So our two guys venture up beyond the ridge. Up Vasquez Rocks. Cheers, y'all. And the day for night is really bad. It's naff. But these two guys will encounter a mysterious force. His buddy, Wilfred Glendon's buddy, suddenly goes, I can't move. My legs, my feet are rooted to the spot. And Glendon's like, well, just lift them. What's wrong with you? Just lift your feet. And they go through like a crevice, and suddenly our boy gets confronted by an invisible force and goes, oh, something's blocked me. And then does the most exaggerated theatrical pantomime to fight his way past this thing. And they progress a bit further on, and the other lad, he can't go on for whatever reason. He can't go on. He's like, I just sit off, and like, I'm not happy here. You know, I'll sit here. And our hero goes off on his own, and he pulls out his binoculars. He's got knives, and he's got a pistol, and he's got all sorts there, and a big silly hat on and all that, like. And he pulls out his big binoculars, and he's looking all around. Oh, there. And then he turns that way, and you can see in the shot, there's a huge fucking bush right there. And he goes, oh, and he stares into it. There's a bush right there. And he's got binoculars on it. You go, oh, you idiot. But he does spy in the distance the Marifesa lupina lumina, or whatever it's called, the moonflower. Da-da! So he scarpers off, I must have this. Down he goes. And then we see behind him something with arched eyebrows and freakish hair and big bulbous glowing eyes. Like Kilroy was here, it comes up behind a rock and stares down at him. And he's there, he's found this magical shrubbery and gets his knife out. He's going, I must cut this. But there's a shadow on the wall behind him of something about to pounce. And it ain't a yeti. And he clocks this, and it looks around, but it retreats back behind the rock. But as he goes to investigate, it leaps on him, and a bit of a tussle takes place. And he's got his knife, and he's stabbing, and rolling around and all this. And suddenly his arm is presented, and this thing just goes and bites his arm. Josh, oh. And then, in a bit of scene transition, he leans down towards, the Marifesa moonflower plant, and he reaches down for it, and you see a great big gash. It does not look like a bite wound. It looks like two big rips, like that. One, then the other, and no bite marks. And if you look closely in this scene, when the arm is there, round about his sleeve is rolled up, but round about here, there's something which is man-made and special effects wise is stuck on his arm. And whether that is the bladder that bleeds the blood down his arm, I don't know. You see it for a split second, it's there, and then suddenly as he leans forward, it's kind of gone. So I think it's a special effect thing. We're gonna talk about all the makeup effects, all the special effects. We're gonna talk about everything, but let's just go through the movie as we do. And in a great scene transition, and I will say, cinematography is by a fella called Charles Stumar, and it's wonderful. The photography in this movie is absolutely amazing, and especially for the special effects as well, the visual effects. And suddenly we cut from the bloodied arm reaching for this Marifesa flower to a scarred arm in the laboratory back in London, in his botanical laboratory back in London. So Wilfrid Glendon has survived his Tibetan expedition, and he's brought some of his plant bulbs back. Yes, they've come back to Blighty. And we now get introduced to Wilfrid Glendon, not the adventurous botanist, but the absolutely egotistical, arrogant swine, and possibly suppressed homosexual husband of the delectable Valerie Hobson, which really, we see this straight away. He's in his laboratory, and he has this He has these amazing moon glow lights which mimic the lights of the moon, lunar glow, because he's trying to get these plants to bloom and blossom. I don't know why it's so important. These plants are massively important in this movie, but we don't know why at this stage, and we're not even sure why he's so concerned about them. But it's his driving obsession. He must discover and find and work out these plants. And why won't they fucking bloom in my big lunar lights? So this guy has a laboratory, and it's an assistant called Hawkins, who is great. We'll talk more about him. But they're not opening. These things are not opening at all. But they should open. What's wrong with them? Yeah, they're being so stubborn. And as well as his lunar light system, which is, we're talking 1935 here. I think the film is set in what's meant to be 1935 as well. It's not like Gothic time. It isn't like the 18th or 19th centuries. It's not like that at all. It's the modern time when the film came out. He has this weird contraption, which is totally, we don't even get them these days. When someone comes to the laboratory, suddenly an alarm goes off and a TV screen comes on, a video monitor showing who's coming there. And he does a little, the old phone dial, like that. And it clues up and you can see who they are. And it's his wife, 17-year-old, you know. And he's done well for himself. Henry Hull at this time was 45 years old. 45 years old. And he's got Valerie Hobson as his missus. Got to remember, in Bride of Frankenstein, filmed at the same time as this, just down that tunnel away, different soundstage, she's Colin Clive's wife in Bride of Frankenstein. But she doesn't, the weird thing is, she does not look massively out of place. She looks old, many years older than she is, but that's no detriment to her. She's still stunningly beautiful, and she acts pretty well. Well, we'll come on to all that. And she's arriving, Wilfred, it's like, oh my dear. You've got to remember, Henry Hull is absolute garbage in this movie as a human. He's wonderful as a werewolf, but he's absolutely shit as a human being. This is a guy, now he's got this starched, stilted, hugely wooden British accent. And my darling, no, I'm too busy. My work comes first. And he's actually from Louisville, Kentucky. Apparently, I've not seen many movies of Henry Hull. But I say he was in Great Expectations. He was also in many war movies and westerns, and he was a master of accents. So he could do the Deep South, obviously, that's his natural accent. But he could do English accents. He could do Canadian. He could do brusque New Yorker accents. He could do anything. So the guy could act. Although, to be honest, I love this movie, but he's not the best thing in this until he's gone snarly and werewolfy. So he's like, oh God, my dear, what do you want? I'm busy. She said, well, but our guests are here. There's a big botanical society prestige do taking place in his lavish greenhouses and gardens, because he's got all these freakish bloody plants, really wild, bizarre, bloody H.P. Lovecraft style things. And like, but you must come out. Your guests are all here. But my darling, my work comes first. I must have more time in privacy and all this. And he's like, but darling, you've barely seen me for months. You've been away. He's a twat to her, is what he is. He's an absolute, utter, unashamed, unabashed twat. Do we have some kind of sort of lines going through, sort of lighted, sort of camera show taking place? I don't know. The sun has come out. Not quite the lunar atmosphere I had anticipated and hoped for to bring out the the Marifesa moonflower, but no, bloody sunlight's crept in now. Anyway, big party. Oh no, there's Aunt Etty Coombs. Etty Coombs, played by Spring Byington, who is outstanding in this movie. I love her to bits. She's, I don't know what age she's meant to be, but you've got Valerie Hobson, who's 17 and beautiful. But you've got this girl, who's an older woman, but she wears figure-hugging gowns, and she's coquettish, she's flirtatious, she's tipsy all the time. She gets mixes up composers with painters, you know, and she gets names wrong all the time. It's on purpose because she's just a bit flighty, a bit of a, you know, I don't know, what the word I'm looking for? Not a flapper, but she, well, sort of like maybe an older flapper, a flapper's mother, you know, but she's sexy as hell. And I don't mind admitting that. When I first saw this movie as a kid, I was not drawn to Valerie Hobson as you should be. I was drawn to her, Etty Coombs. And she is a sort of comedic supporting character, of which this film has several more. So, oh no, it's Etty Coombs. Oh my darling, I can't abide this. I must go back to my work. No, these people are here for you. You've got to come out and meet them. So they do, and we will now meet quite a lot of supporting cast, including Valerie Hobson, her name's Lisa. His wife is called Lisa, but known as Lee to her former ardent lover, her former paramour, Paul Ames, played by, I forgot this guy's name, Lester Matthews, with one of those terrible little thin moustaches, and he's got a big, long but thin face, and his hair's all raked back, and he looks like an old woman who's put a lipstick on, and it's all pursed lips, because of this fucking silly tash. And he is the most ineffectual buffoon ever. But this is a guy that's now living in California. I made my home in California, and I run my own flight school and airport. So he's basically saying he flies here, there, and everywhere. He's transatlantic aviator. So he's meant to be our genuine hero of the piece once things kick off. So, but he's got the hots for Lisa, because those two grew up together. And like Etty, Spring Byington says, like, oh, this is Paul Ames. Now these two, you know, this is to Glendon, Wilfred Glendon, her husband. She's gone like, oh, these two, he proposed to her many years ago. And Wilfred's like, you did what? Well, yes, Wilfred. I was 6 years old and Paul was 12, but we used to play all the time, and we were such good friends, and we were so close. And they're really close right from the word go. You've got Paul Ames is like hugging her, but used to be so happy, so full of fun and life. What's happened to you? I hate to see you so sad and tragic. Why? Because she's married to one of the Dark Glendons. As they say, you know, you shouldn't, if you marry a man, you're in for trouble. You marry a famous man, it's a catastrophe, as Etty says, like. And but Glendon's ignoring his missus, and he's just doing his own. He's got his passion is, you know, science and botany and flowers, and then why won't these fucking bulbs bloom in the fucking fake moonlight I've created? And all my other inventions, which no one else seems to fucking care about, like my televisual announcement system when people come up to my door. That's huge. This is 1935. That's pure futuristic, Futurama stuff. So he's ignoring his missus, and she ain't happy, and she's quite bold about it too. And she will flirt like there's no tomorrow with Paul Ames, who's his lips on his little thin face. Oh, my darling, we should never have parted. Well, we fell apart and all this, and well, whatever. But do you want to come riding with me? Oh, of course I will. But what about your husband? He won't give a shit. Sorry, what were you saying? Oh, where's the werewolfery? Oh, don't you worry. We're going to get tons and tons of werewolfery in this movie. So, don't forget, Wilfred's been bitten. He's been bitten back in Tibet. But he brought his flowers back. But they ain't blooming. They're blooming awful. But he's got his assistant, his lab assistant. He was called Hawkins. Hawkins is played by, I wrote this down somewhere. Where is he? J.M. Carrington, who's brilliant. And you've seen him in many movies. He's there, he's pure putting on a Cockney accent and all that. And he'll talk to the butler of the Glendon household. He'll talk to him and well, these things happen, It's nature, Mr. Parkins, it's nature. Well, I don't understand nature. Get your hand off the glass, please, if you don't mind, Mr. Parkins. And all this kind of shit. You get lots of incidental conversations in this movie, which can be a detriment depending on what mood you're in when you watch it. Sometimes I watch this movie and all the comedic interplay and the supporting character chat is a real distraction and annoyance. And sometimes I ooh, I'm really enjoying this because it's characters who you shouldn't give a shit about suddenly getting loads of things to do and say, and it works. Anyway, we get another meeting during this early stage. A Dr. Yagami, played by Werner Oland. Werner Oland played Fu Manchu and then played Charlie Chan. And he has a rakish moustache as well, but it's a bit more Oriental style. And he has a cane, and he's a bit of a portly dude. And he wants to see, the Marifesa, Lumina, and the Moonflower. And he meets Dr. Glendon, and he's like, I have a fascination about this plant. Do you know what it can do and all this? And he's like, I have no such plants. But I think you do, because we've met before. And Glendon's like, we haven't met before. No, I don't recall. Oh yes, we did, in Tibet. In Tibet, you say? And it's all very enigmatic. And he's like, well, no, my laboratory's closed. There'll be a grand opening. He wants to do a grand opening when he's got his moonflower to fucking bloom and blossom and all that. As this entire image is now blooming and blossoming. It's gone very bright now, hasn't it? And but he's like, no. You can't see anything in there just yet. But his interest is piqued, and he's like, he walks away from him, but Yagami is there, with his cane, just looking through a window at him. He goes, Dr. Yagami, come here. And they talk more. And he's saying this flower is an antidote. An antidote for what? For basically werewolfery. But he says, we all know it's lycanthropy, but they don't do this. The script writer for this is John Colton, who was a gay man. Now, I'm not just saying that glibly. There's a reason for me saying that. But it's a story by Robert Harris. I can't quite find real confirmation about his initial premise or story, but John Colton wrote the screenplay. And he says, look, he doesn't call it lycanthropy, he calls it lycanthrophobia. It's, lycanthrophobia, werewolfery. And he said, what, folklore, superstition? I don't believe any of this claptrap. He said, well, we met in Tibet. That's a bit of a rap there. And, but we both believe in this flower. It has powers. it cures. It doesn't cure, but it's a treatment, an antidote for lycanthrophobia. It's like, well, anyway, what do you know about all this? Now, of course, he's got a bite, although it's a very strange looking bite on his arm, and his sleeve is there. And Werner Oland, as Yagami, puts his hand on Wilfred's arm. Yes, we met. We both know what it's all about. I'm paraphrasing. And he sort of caresses his arm. And it's a very strange moment that we'll come on to the homoerotic side of this, because it is there. Whether it's meant to be there or not is debatable, but it's a flavour added which this film has, whether you like it or you don't. And if you didn't ever see it before, you fucking will after I tell you about it. So anyway, good day to you, sir, Dr. Yagami. And he's caressed his scar. So he's like, hang on a minute, he's putting two and two together. We met in Tibet. I got this. How do you know about that? You put the bite on me. Now, him and Hawkins, his lab assistant, they get the big, they got a system, a cyclic, very, very, not quite Frankenstein's laboratory, but they try and do a bit, turn the lights up, put the lunar lamps on and all this, and they're trying to get these fucking buds to go, no, just grow, will you, grow. And as he leans in, this is Wilfred Glendon, you see his hand get all hairy, and he's like, and Hawkins is there, his lab assistant, and he goes, and Wilfred just goes, Hawkins, I think you've done enough today. You can go now. And he's fucking hitting his hand. From Dusk Till Dawn, Tom Savini becomes like a vampire, and his hand goes all clawed and vampiric. He's like, I'm all right. Nothing wrong with me. And it's exactly the same as that. He's like, Hawkins, you're no longer needed. Go home. Have fun. Have some fun. Go and find a maid. Do something. And he's like, oh my God. But he goes near one of the plants and the hair recedes and goes away. And he's like, shit, this guy said about lycanthrophobia, werewolfery. Oh, and this is a cure for it. Oh my God. Because what Yagami said to him was like, what if I told you there were 2 werewolves in London right now? I'd say you were mad, pure mad. And he said, well, no. Well, how could it be? How could 2 such unfortunate souls become this ungodly, satanic beast? The bite of a werewolf transmits the curse to another one. Yeah, okay. So we know, and you can't be. You now know that Yagami was there. He's the one that put the bite on Wilfred Glendon in Tibet. One of those great, horrible coinkydinks, a pure coincidence, has ensued. Just when Wilfred Glendon and his buddy arrive in Tibet, he's there as well. Because he says to him, Yagami says to him, look, I was there looking for the same thing you were looking for, that plant. Only mine that I found died in transit back to London. I'm hoping yours are okay. So he knows that he's got these things in his botanical laboratory. And what I love about this laboratory, he's got these plants set up, and it's on like this huge sort of 3D. Well, it's rocks and fauna and moss and soil, and the plants are growing in it. But when I was a kid, I had a very similar thing. So I got a very itchy shoulder for some reason. I had a very similar thing for my Action Man action figures. And my dad, Big Kilt Papa, had built it for me. And it was on like wooden ply boards and all sorts of build up stuff and sort of shelves. And he put loads of turf on it and rocks and like shrubberies, like trees. So my action men could climb up and down it and fight and battle. And it was bloody wonderful. And this film reminds me massively of that. And it looks so great. So now we know there's two werewolves. We know that Wilfred Glenden's going to be a werewolf at some point when the full moon. This film makes a point of the full moon. Kurt Siodmak and George Wagner and Lon Chaney Jr. for the Wolfman 6 years later, 1941, really don't reference the full moon. They do in the sequels. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. They do in the subsequent movies, but they do not do it in the first Wolfman movie. The first Wolfman movie introduces silver. Kurt Siodmak, the screenwriter, brings in silver bullets. They can be killed by silver, pure silver. That's not in this movie, but the full moon is. Right, we're going to talk about the folklore and how Hollywood used all this and changed it all and made the genre what it is. But anyway, so Wilfred now knows, I've seen this bloody hand. My God, not working. And it's gone hairy, but he got it back to normal again. And he will sit there. I've got two itchy shoulders. What's going on here? And he'll sit there after ignoring his wife yet again. Well, you go out to the party with Paul Ames, your former adorer and lover. You go to the party. I'm too busy with my work. He's a right swine to his missus. No wonder she's falling into the arms of a former lover. You know, don't get me wrong. It's a dysfunctional relationship right from the word go that we're introduced to the two of them. But, and here it's a big sort of but. Maybe she actually says to him when we first see them together, you know, now you're being short with me now, Wilfred. You know, short with the staff, short with everybody else. You're short with me now. You didn't used to be like that. Well, is it because he had the bite and he's come back and almost a month has gone by before the full moon and his attitude already internally is changing? He's blinkered by his job. He's obsessed with his work. He's an annoying bloody wank shaft of a knobhead. And maybe that's why. But in the film, right from the word go with his missus, he comes across as a completely arrogant bastard who hates his missus, can't stand being around her, but he's so jealous when she's got someone else there, and he hates this other guy, a rival for her affections, and yet he can't satisfy her, he can't make her happy, he can't be involved because he's too obsessed. But is it because he's changing already inside, but none of us have realised? So anyway, he starts reading up on lycanthropy, and he unlocks one of these little sort of cupboards, bookshelf things, with drawers and a big tome with one of those great big huge things. He sits in the armchair, pipe. No, he hasn't got a pipe, but he should have. And he's there, and he reads, and Yagami said to him, like, the werewolf instinctively wants to kill the thing it loves the best. He says the best, it should be the most, but it says the best. But I hate that, I'll be honest. Why would the werewolf instinctively seek out to kill the thing it loves the most? That just makes it a big love drama, a big tryst, a big sort of, a tragic romance, a doomed romance. And that's very sort of Shakespearean and kind of old school classical. And to be honest, I don't like that. But it is what it is. It instinctively seeks to kill the thing it loves the best. Meaning his missus. Although that might not be the case, folks. I'm playing with you. And he reads this, and it's a picture of a guy in like sort of monk's robes. A sort of a decryption, and he's going like, he's got fangs, he's going it's really pathetic, but the text says like look, the werewolf has to eat or kill a human each time they're afflicted by it during the full moon course, they've got to kill a human. Otherwise, if they don't kill one per night during the full moon cycle, otherwise the affliction will be permanent. Now, that doesn't make it sound like... I think the point they're trying to make is that they will become a werewolf permanently. But it could be taken either way. Look, if they don't kill a human every night of the full moon, then this curse goes on and on every full moon cycle. But they're trying to make out that, like, well, if I don't kill one throughout the lunar cycle, then I'm going to be this forever, literally day and night. Well, I don't know how convincing that sort of angle is, but Hollywood and John Colton and Robert Harris's story by it, whether how true that is, I do not know. Their research into werewolf folklore really haven't probed too deeply, I don't think, and they're making their own stuff up. Now, of course, in The Wolfman, 1941, Lon Chaney, George Wagner, Ket Siodmak, the screenwriter, will create the full moon thing. Well, no, he wouldn't create the full moon, but he'd create the silver bullets. It would become the full moon later on. So Hollywood made the folklore of werewolfry and lycanthropy its own. So now you watch a werewolf movie, oh, it's a full moon, silver kills them. And the thing is, werewolves in folklore weren't like that. They could become a werewolf whenever the hell they wanted to, and they could eat whatever they wanted. They don't have to go after the thing they love the most. Well, I love meat, beef, chicken. So I'll be in the farm. I won't be pursuing, my wife, and you don't. It's a ridiculous sort of premise that they use. Anyway, he's there reading this book. She's out having fun because Aunt Etty, what's her name again? Oh my God, Spring Byington, has arranged as a high society do at her place. Her place overlooks the Thames, and as she says, like, oh, we have pubs on one side and murderers on the other, and she loves it. she's fucking great. I do like her, actually. Etty Coombs, and she's met Dr. Yagami as well, because he's kept on going back to the Glenden's place. I want to see the flowers, and they're like, "Are you fuck off?" And like Etty Coombs has gone like, "Oh, you've got a very interesting face." His face looks like my mate Dave Morrison. Dave, if you're watching, he does. And you're a lot older than he was when he made this movie, so but you still look like him, and that's a good thing. And he's like, "You must come to my party," and he's like, "Oh, I don't do parties." And he's like, "No, but you must." "Oh, I don't mix it. You must. My nephew is the whatever of the Chief of Scotland Yard, who you will get to meet, and he's a very busy man. If he can make my party, then so can you." Okay, I'll come then. And he does. Yagami does go to the party. So they're all there, but Wilfred ain't. Wilfred's at home reading about lycanthropy, and the cat, the family cat, is sitting beside him on like a little plush cushion and the roaring fireplace, and he's read this. Hello, Pudkins. Or reaches for it, and the cat just goes. And now we've seen this in so many other movies. American Elf, The Wolfman. I discussed it in the cat people review I did the other day. And like animals not liking the person who was a cat person, they can instinctively sense this. And the cat in this movie, this cat fucking goes for it. Its back arches, it's the fair in its spine. It's like fucking like that, pure Mohican. It's like and it's doing all that shit. So something which you can't see, but you're presuming that's its dad. And like Paul Wilford's like, and the cat fucks off like. And he's like, "Oh my God." And he begins to change. And in perhaps one of the greatest werewolf transformation scenes that there is, and this is the first to do it. Forget about The Werewolf from 1910, because I don't know what any transformation took place in that. Only a couple of stills from that movie exist, so I don't know if they ever did any kind of effects other than just makeup. And he walks, he's in his, a dressing gown, and he walks between the pillars from the sitting room. He's heading towards the laboratory, so he's kind of walking out on the veranda, and he goes from pillar to pillar. And of course, when he's passing the pillar, that's when the scene is edited and more makeup is applied to him, and it looks amazing. It's truly, truly shocking. I say one of the best transformations ever. Does it like 1, 2, 3 times, 3 passes, and each time there's more to him. It's minimal makeup. Oh God, we're gonna have to. We'll discuss this right now. We may as well. He has huge arched eyebrows, like, well, they're kind of fucking stratospheric. Massive widow's peak comes down, like his ears are like kind of out, but they kind of curl over as well. And there's a bit of, hair around the outsides of the face and the jaw, but his underbite comes out, and his nose broadens out and flattens down, and he becomes pure brutish and thuggish. And he looks amazing. Right, now, Jack P. Pierce, the monster maker for Universal, the guy that put Boris Karloff bolts and the fucking, the big flat top and all this, everything for Universal. He did everything, but predominantly famous for creating the yak hair for Lon Chaney Jr. in The Wolfman. And he created that makeup. Lon Chaney is a big, hairy, scary bear. That's what he is. He's fair. He's that. That's what he is in The Wolfman. And that, with the black nose at the end. Some of you out there going, didn't have a black nose in The Wolfman. He fucking did have a black nose. All the production artwork, everything, all the sketchbooks, everything that Jack Pierce wrote about it. And watch the film itself. It's got a black nose, like a dog. And when he created the makeup for Henry Hull in this movie, it is that. Slightly different, but equally as hairy, if not hairier, because it goes right across his face. And again, the big fairy brow comes down to here, and it's pronounced. And he's got a black nose as well. I have colour and the original black and white stills of the original makeup for this movie. And what happened? Henry Hull. And we're going to go into this, folks. Henry Hull said, hang on a second a minute. In the script, when I'm a werewolf, I'm meant to be recognised as being Wilfrid Glendon. That's how the movie's going to transpire. They're going to know it's me. Well, if I got covered in fucking fur, how am I going to... They won't recognise me. Okay. So... Jack P. Pierce, makeup extraordinaire, said, no, I'm making this werewolf makeup and you're gonna wear this. Well, no, I'm not gonna wear this. So he goes this is Henry Hull, actor Henry Hull, goes to Carl Laemmle, the head of Universal, and says, like, look, I don't want to wear this full makeup. And in the script, this is what it says. Now, it's his son, Cortland, I'm sure that's his name, Hull, said, like, this is what my father said about it, and I stand by this. There's no documentary proof of what his son said. So, just saying, for the sake of playing devil's advocate. But Laemmle apparently stood with Henry Hull. Said, no, to Jack P. Pierce. No, I want it minimal. It's going to be minimal. Do what he says. And debatably, the makeup he comes up with, the minimal effect, is infinitely far superior. It really does work, because that jutting underbite, the fangs, I can't do it. No, I can't do it at all. And the fucking freakish eyebrows and the widow's peak, and the fact that he, as a werewolf, he still is cunning with a human brain, which is a great sort of weird side of the werewolf folklore. he remembers, and he can still manipulate things. He can still, he knows who he is, but he can't control what he does. So he puts his big cap on. He puts a muffler, a scarf, and a big coat on, a big cape. Turns the collars up to hide himself and all that. But that makeup is amazing. It's very feral. It's very. I've always said that I prefer my werewolves to be wolfmen. So they're walking upright. They're on two legs. I like them like the Howling, but the big. They are massive animal, snouty, huge, snarly, fanged, huge bastards. A shark on two legs and covered in fur. I love that. But I've always found the most frightening aspect of a werewolf to be the humanity, which is still, you can still see it. You can still see the eyes, the face. There's a human there. There's something in between. And as Werner Oland, as Dr. Yagami says, look, they're not a wolf or a man. There's something in between, a satanic combination of the worst of both the man and the wolf. So you get this sort of satanic angle, and the makeup does give that effect, that he's just this demonic thing, but it's clearly wolfish, it's lupine, and that savage underbite, which of course Lon Chaney would carry on. Well, so whatever you believe, no. Henry Hull says, like, no, in the script, they've got to recognise me. Okay. But another school of thought was always that he was being vain. I want more of my face to be seen. Okay. Look, I knocked both of those down now, because if you watch this movie, and I've watched it a lot, especially in the last couple of days, even in full werewolf makeup, he looks nothing like Wilfrid Glendon. Nothing at all. Which makes a mockery of them recognising him at the end, or towards the end. Look, this is my opinion. You've watched the film, or you're going to watch the film, and you'll have your own verdict. He looks fuck all like Wilfrid Glendon. Just because you can see loads of face, they've flattened, they've fucking pugilised his nose. Boof! Fucking big fat broad caveman nose. Fucking freakish eyebrows. Big ears which turn over. And this savage underbite is cruel and ruthless looking. That is not at all like Wilfrid Glendon. He looks nothing like Henry Hull. Again, my opinion. Having watched it a lot and literally agonised over this entire makeup process and the whole controversy surrounding it. He looks fuck all like the guy that you're meant to recognise him. Bollocks! You wouldn't recognise him. And in fact, this first transformation, from pillar to pillar, and showing his human brain, he goes back to the laboratory to try to get the flowers. Oh my God, I've got... And what's happened? Yagami has been there and snipped off the two buds that actually opened. And he's took them. It's full moon. Yagami's a werewolf, and he's going to use these to stave off his transformation. It's just a temporary antidote. It's not a cure, but he's done it. He's nicked him. The bastard's nicked him. So, and he's still got that stubborn bud which will not open in his laboratory. And Henry Hull goes back there as a werewolf, and he sees his big fairy paws, and he's like, and his lunar lamps there, like, oh God, and he's like, ah. And in his rage, he sees Paul Ames and his missus going out to the party. Right. Puts his fucking coat on and his cape and puts his hat on. It's bizarre that he does this, because he's a werewolf, but he's still got a human brain and human cunning to go and do it. And he goes out there, comes stalking down at Etty Coombs' party. Will it be a buffet? Ooh, there's no room for sitting down. No, hang on. Will it be a buffet or a sit-down meal? There's no room for sitting down in my place. It's going to be a buffet, although I don't like buffets. The last one I went to, I sat on a plate of salad and no one told me. I love her. I think she's great. And she gets tipsy as fuck during this. And she's there. And she invited Yagami. So Yagami is there. And they hear howling outside. Howling. The howling voice in this movie is a Timberwolf recorded with Henry Hull's own voice. That's brilliant. That's genuinely brilliant. So it's giving the werewolf character, the werewolf itself, the voice of the guy himself, combined with a real wolf. Man, that's superb. And you hear this, and they're all like, fucking, what's that? And Paul Ames, what's his fucking name? Lester Matthews, he's shit. He really is shit in this movie. You hate him with a vengeance. He's such a fucking damp squib. And he goes like, well, back in California, I would say it was a coyote, not a coyote, a coyote with a bad dream. What the fuck? And outside, Etty Coombs, Spring Byington, has got a bit too drunk. So they take her to her bedroom. Just be like, oh, you're all right. You'll be fine. And they're hearing the howling outside, and Yagami's there, and they're going like, "Why, Mr. Yagami, you're sweating. You seem very afraid." And he's like, "It's a lost soul out there, because he knows what it is. Because he did it. He put the bite on him, so he knows what's going to happen, and he won't change because he's took the antidote. You see." And he's at the party, and then we see Hairy Paws climbing the balcony outside Aunt Etty's boudoir, and he comes in, and well, this scene, the scenes of his paws climbing the railings are from the end of the film. They've cut them in. Why? Because this scene was filmed very early on when Henry Hull was wearing Jack P. Pierce's full makeup, the full Wolfman look which you would get later on with Lon Chaney. Why do we know this? Well, it's intercut. The scenes of the paws are from the end of the movie. The fact he's not wearing his cap is from the end of the movie. When he's wearing his cap just before and shortly afterwards, his cap's back on again. Intercut scenes, because what's happened? He's wearing that full makeup, and he climbs over the balcony, opens the door, comes in. Etty sees him, but we see his shadow on the wall, and his shadow on the wall is very sharply defined, and it is that snout, big fur on top, ears, but it's big and it's furry. I've seen lots of frame by frames. I've seen people analyse this. It is the full makeup. He's wearing it. There's people that say like, oh no, it's a shadow maker. They've just got some kind of prop or some extra from behind the scenes and just gone, just put this on. No, they fucking haven't. He's wearing the makeup that Jack P. Pierce made initially, and they filmed this sequence at the start of the filming process. And Henry Hull has gone like, no. Whatever his reasons, no, I'm meant to be recognisable. With this, I'm not recognisable. Whether you believe that or you believe that, no, I want my face to be seen. I don't want to be covered in all this fucking yak hair. Whatever you believe, that's fine. It's a mixture of the two, I would say. But without a doubt, whoever got into Aunt Etty Coombs' boudoir was wearing the full Wolfman makeup. You can see it very, very plainly in the shadow. It isn't just done for effect. That's a person in the makeup. You just fucking create that thing, which looks vastly different from that makeup. This makeup. Because here he is, there. There he is holding it, the Manifesta flower, the moon flower. And there's Big Ben. It's London backdrop, bedecked in pink. Don't know why. And here he is again. You guys know I have all the werewolf masks. I do not have the Trick or Treat Studios Werewolf of London mask of Henry Hull in the full finished movie werewolf makeup. Why? Because I've seen it, I've held it, and I've had 3 different versions in the flesh, baby, in the latex, shall we say, and they've been shit. No amount of modification is going to make that look anything like the movie. I've hated them, so I've never bought one. Otherwise, that would be here right now, but I will not do it. That guy will do perfectly well with the underbite and that savage, brutish profile which Henry Hull has in this makeup. And I'm going to say again, I actually prefer this makeup. The minimal makeup for London, I think is scarier because there is humanity there. And what happens is in this scene, which will prove my point out, what happens in this scene, he gets into Etty's boudoir, she screams and screams and screams, and everyone comes running up, but he doesn't run her. And she says, oh, it was the devil, it was a demon. He had green eyes. Remember that? He had green eyes. You don't hear that get referenced again. He had green eyes. Now, she's pissed, so maybe she got that wrong, so take it with a pinch of salt. And they all think that she's just talking shite. And they all completely dismiss her story. Yeah, and like, even, Paul Ames with his old woman moustache. We've all had a bit too many once in a while, haven't we? he's fucking shite. They just dismiss her story. But he hasn't had his kill that night. So next thing, we're on a street and an alcove, which is from Dracula's Daughter. The exact same set from Dracula's Daughter. And he's there, hunched over, his collar's turned up and his cap pulled down. And some poor woman, young woman, walks down the cobbled streets and just turns and he looks up. Now, this is the frightening thing about it. You can see people that look like this on the street. You can. They might not have a massive, huge fucking underbite and big fangs, but big sides and really feral eyes and like kind of unkempt, really, and frightening, bizarre, blazing, nasty, murderous eyes. You can see people like that. I look in the mirror in the morning and I see that all the time. And I'm fucking wild and feral and hairy. But it works. And she goes, and he goes, and he snarls. Henry Hull is superb as the werewolf. He's unsympathetic, cold, and remote, and fucking horrible and annoying as a human. Anyway, he goes after this girl, and you hear like, as he pounces, you hear a chomp, and it's like, and she screams, gives it loads. And then you meet Scotland Yard, Colonel Forsyth. Why is it in these movies, in The Wolfman as well, the chief of police happens to be a fucking colonel or major or general of the police, of the army, who joins the police force? And you get this a lot in these vintage movies, because they've all served time in uniform and held positions of rank. So you got Forsyth. Have I got his name down? I will have somewhere. Forsyth. Colonel Forsyth, Lawrence Grant, Scotland Yard. And he's got like his copper, he was like a beat copper, one of these, relocated cockneys, into California and Hollywood. He's like, well, I've got me arches, haven't I? And I can't run with me arches because I broke me arches, haven't I? On the line of duty, of course. Well, what I hear is this horrible scream. Oh, it was horrible, it was. And I ran. I saw something and I ran after it. But my arches gave way again. And then I saw it. I saw the body all ripped up. And like, my arches gave way again, sir. Oh, fuck off. So you've got Wilfred's killed. He's killed this girl. So he survived that night. He can be human again. And he ain't too pleased about it. And he comes down for breakfast with his wife, who's been out the party with Paul Ames. And he comes down and she's like, well, where were you? And I'm, well, I was busy my work. Fuck off. He's a shitbag. Gets the paper out. In this scene, he looks like John Malkovich. He's got glasses on. He looks like John Malkovich. I don't know why, but he does. He was girl mangled. He's like, oh, shit, I did that. We're going to go riding. No, hang on. No, that isn't the same night. I'm racing ahead here. What he does now, He knows he's a fucking beast, and he's gonna do the same again the same night. I think he meets Yagami again, and I think there's a bit more threat. I can't quite remember now. I've just seen the film as well, but I can't quite remember. This film has so many scenes and so much interplay that it's very hard to go through bit by bit by bit and do it narratively correctly as I tried to do. So I will have got things sort of mixed up in the entire timeline narrative, because it's so much happens. It's jam-packed with incidents and conversation and stupidity and weird comic asides that it's overwhelming. So, and my tea's gone cold, hasn't it? It most certainly has. So, what does our boy do? Well, I can't. You instinctively try to kill the one you love the best. Well, no, yeah, so you still love Valerie Hobson, yeah? Is that what you're saying? Right? You openly fucking despise her every other waking moment of the day. So anyway, he takes himself off to a boarding house, a flop house in, like, East End. Got to be somewhere like that. And he meets Mrs. Whack and Mrs. Moncaster. Oh, God. Now, here's the sequence which will either, if you can get through this, then you're brilliant. If you can't, well, you're less than brilliant. But he meets these two. Una O'Connor was in Bride of Frankenstein and other Universal movies as this caterwauling, mumbling, shrieking, whining harridan bitch. And broke the film down into... James Whale would use her as a comedy. After you've had a horror sequence, give it a scene to her, and it gives you a breath of relief, after a horrible sequence. And then you ramp up the horror again. But you bring it back for even more comedic sort of intermediary effect. Well, it's like Stuart Walker has gone like, well, I am going to use the James Whale template. I'm going to have comedic side characters who just coming out of nowhere and take over the movie. And he doesn't know. The thing is he doesn't get the rhythm and the flow of how these should be used. So we meet in a lengthy sequence, pissed as farts, ginned up, gin goblins aplenty. Mrs. Whack, Mrs. Moncaster, they both own boarding rooms, and they're both in the back room with Boozer, fucking pissed up. And these two regularly will punch each other out during an argument. Slyly just do it. And this goes on for ages. And our boy wants to I've got to find somewhere safe to lock myself up away from people I love and care about. And so he ends up in his pub and he asks, does anyone have a room around here? You want to go into the back room there, sir, and you'll meet Mrs. Whack and Mrs. Moncaster, and they will sort you out. So he goes in. Has anyone got a room there? You've already had a scene of them. They're eating soup or something like that, and Mrs. Whack's fucking veil has got into her mouth. She goes, "Oh, this bloody soup tastes bloody awful." No, that's because you're eating your veil, Mrs. Whack. And it all drips off, and you're like, "Oh, fuck off." So, Mrs. Moncaster, played by, hang on a minute, got these somewhere here. Zeffie Tilbury. Zeffie Tilbury plays Mrs. Moncaster, and Ethel Griffiths plays Mrs. Whack. And they argue over who's got the best room, and Whack gets whacked out. Moncaster takes over. You come to mine, dearie, and it's the best. And in a really, really stupid moment, which I cannot believe they put this in there. They walk up the steps, they've gone across the courtyard, and they've gone to this sort of flop house, boarding house, apartment. Are you single then, are you, dearie? And he goes like, I'm as single as anyone could possibly be in this world. And then she goes, oh, right. And he goes, do you believe it possible? What would you say if I said it was possible for a man to turn into a werewolf? And yeah, he does use the term werewolf. gets my fucking underbite, fucking growling and snarling and spitting. Werewolf. He goes, what would you say if I said it was possible for a man to turn into a werewolf? And she goes, oh, I'd be Red Riding Hood then, wouldn't I? Why does he say that? Why does he fucking say that to her? What possible reason could he have to I am a werewolf, don't you know? Actually, I'm not. I'm a werewolf. I just don't get it. It's such a stupid line. Why? You're going to hide, you fucking idiot. So anyway, now I like this moment because Mrs. Moncaster then goes into telling her entire, as in one take, going up the stairs and up the next stairs and to the door to his room is Garrett, and she says like, my husband, he was a great man, he worked all his life and blah blah blah, and he left me 20 years ago. He'd come home, he'd beat the kids, he'd beat me, he'd spear the budgie with a fork, he'd do this, he'd do that, and then and it's all in one take and in one breath. And then she goes, here's your room, dearie. And it's superb, and in a great moment, all he does after all that big talk she just gave, he goes, slams the door, locks it, and throws the key. And she's just done it's a great moment. These women will be in it again, and they are annoying. It depends on your mood when you're watching it. You either put up with it or you hate it. And I've gone through both. You kind of cycle through both when you watch the film. It's fun, it's entertaining. Either way, they are brilliant actresses and they really, really make this work. But they're not necessary, and they really labour the point. Anyway, he gets in there. He's in there for 2 fucking minutes. 2 minutes, I kid you not. And he says, please God, don't let it happen to me again. Please God, not again. And he sits down and he looks at his hands and oh God. And he's got there's a window, a little ledge, stone. It's all stone and a window and all that. And he goes to it and he locks the window. Yeah. Folks, excuse me. Husky wants out. Right. And believe you me, the husky actually does want to go out, as in for a walk. Well, it won't be me doing it at this rate. I've got another hour to do with this, at least of this. And he sits there, he looks at his hands and all this, he's got his hat on and his all his collars are turned up, and then suddenly he begins to change again. And look, I love this movie, but it has so much stupid moments, and this is another one. After the first tremendous transformation, this one is absolute pantomime shite. His hands change, and suddenly you've got Henry Hull, who by all accounts is a good actor, but I wouldn't take it on the basis of his human performance in this movie. He goes, and his jaw comes out, he goes, it's so overt. It's just his expressions. He's a very expressionate actor, but my God, it's it's a hoot and a half. It's ridiculous. And then what does he do? He howls and fucking leaps out the window. He just locked the window and fucking leaps out of it. That's what's great about it. He's dynamic. The guy, Lon Chaney, didn't do anything like this ever, apart from his fight with Bela Lugosi's monster in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. He doesn't do anything like this at all. This guy's fucking leaping everywhere, and he goes straight for the fucking window and lands in the street. And of course, Mrs. Whack and Mrs. Moncaster hear all this. Oh my God! Oh, what's he do? He's only been there for 2 minutes, and she's like, Mrs. Moncaster, what happened? Well, I takes him to his room and he sideswipes me. He hits me in the breadbasket. He didn't do any of that. He made the whole fucking shit up there. Well, why didn't you see what's happening? Look through the keyhole. And she does. And she gets... Mrs. Whack knocks her out. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's so ridiculously stupid. And you get a lot of this in this particular mid-section of the movie. Anyway, so he's out on the prowl again, and he's gone to the zoo. American Werewolf in London. This is Werewolf of London. You get American Werewolf in London. And he ends up in the zoo like David Kessler does as well in American Werewolf. And he unlocks the enclosure to a wolf. The wolves are really badly snarling at him. You've got to remember, what are they doing off camera to make, like the cat earlier on, the wolves are like really fucking argh. And when you see a dog or a wolf that's in that, fucking hell, they're massively enraged. You shouldn't be anywhere near them. You shouldn't be within a 2-mile radius of these beasts when they're like that. And but you've got Daisy, played by Jenny Bartlett. Jenny Bartlett is awesomely gorgeous. She only acted in a couple of movies, and then she became a screenwriter, believe it or not. And she's coming to meet Alf, the zookeeper. Alf is played by, I got him, Jeffrey Hassel. Then you get some hassle off Daisy. Alf's a married man with a kid, but he's having an affair with Daisy. And Daisy comes up to the zoo gates, and she's like, "Alf, come on now. You know, you've got to leave her, you know. She's a hatchet-faced old scarecrow of a woman, you know. But I've got a kid, you know. Yeah, you wants to come away with me though, don't ya?" And Snoggity Snog, greatly in the background, because the wolves are giving it loads, and he's going like, what's got into those? And they're having a bit of snoggage. He's like, "What's got into those? I've got to check that out." And I said, "No, you just stay here with me," and all that. But in the background, you see the werewolf of London sort of stalking around behind him, going from left to right, and he's on the other side now, but he's spied there. He wants the girl. It must taste sweeter. And then suddenly, because he let the wolf out, this massive wolf howl goes. And he goes, "No," Alf goes, I've got to go and check that out." And he leaves there, and she's like, sitting on this bench, and she gets a little mirror out, and she looks in that. And this film has, remember I said about the video cam that he has for people arriving in his laboratory, which you see a couple of times, and it's clearly, it's a photo effect, a video effect. They've superimposed, they put filmed footage inside the film. So, and in her mirror, she sees, it's clearly filmed footage of him coming up behind, and she goes, "Ah!" and fucking legs it, and he does he runs like that, outstretched paws, "Ah!" and you hear screaming and like, "Ah!" chomp again. Another murder most foul. So anyway, you cut back to the fucking the garret, his room, and Mrs. Moncaster's just sitting there with a fucking bottle of gin beside her like that, and Mrs. Whack comes out and like, "Has he come back yet?" "No, he's not there. Oh my God, I don't know where he's gone and what he's done." I don't even know what they saw, because when they heard all the kerfuffle earlier, he jumped out the window within 2 minutes of getting in the room. Less than 2 minutes, he's jumped out the fucking window, and they've gone up there and looked for the keyhole. And what they've seen, they screamed, but they've seen nothing. You'd seen nothing. Anyway, they hear more howling. "That's him. He's come back. What are we going to do?" "Oh, let's go up and have a little look." "You haven't got a bottle there, have you, Mrs. Moncaster?" "Oh, no, I haven't. No, I'll never drink again. I won't, after what I've seen tonight." And of course she gets up. "If I were you, I'd go and look through the keyhole again." "Well, don't you be punching me on the chin again, Mrs. Whack." All this fucking shit like. And of course Mrs. Whack, see, "Oh, you left the bottle here." Glug, 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 glug. Mrs. Moncaster goes up to the spy hole, the keyhole, like, and again it's filmed footage, because suddenly you see Wilfred Glendon as a wolf going like, yeah, and coming up to the spy hole, but it's clearly filmed with like a fake keyhole put around it. John P. Fulton does the visual effects. So that's all your lap dissolves, your frame transitions of more effects, going from the pillar to pillar to pillar, and you will have transformations, which we're going to come on to. That's him doing that. The makeup effects are by Jack P. Pierce, of course. And this double act would work on the Wolfman movies as well. So anyway, this entire Mrs. Whack, Mrs. Moncaster bullshittery ends here, because you just see him and they go, oh my God, he's a monster, and all that. Well, are we going to tell the police? Oh no, I don't think we should tell the police. Let's just keep it quiet between you and me, Mrs. Whack. Okay, Mrs. Moncaster. Where does he go? Well, next thing you know, he's back at home again, and like more murders. Yagami has gone to the police, right? Get on this. Yagami, Werner Oland, who is the one who put the bite on this. Remember all this. Remember how it started off. And he speaks to Colonel Forsyth, and Paul Ames, who's the one who wants to get off with our boy's missus, and he's really making inroads into doing so. And she's not exactly fighting him off. She's quite encouraging the whole thing, right in front of her husband's face, making the monster even worse, of course. Or maybe he's got other ideas. He's the nephew of the Chief of Scotland Yard, and he's there. And they've got 2 murders now. And he's going like, we heard the sound of a wolf the other night, and there was a murder in the same area. And like, a wolf gone missing from the zoo, and this girl's been murdered as well. This happened in a place in America. I was there for a while, and he lives in California now. And we had a string of murders, just the same as these, and they were always preceded by the howling of a wolf. And then they found something slinking through the woods, and they shot it and they killed it. They said it was a werewolf. And like, Colonel Forsyth's like, fuck off, you fucking idiot. I know you're my nephew, but shut the fuck up, will you? And get that moustache sorted out. You look like an old woman. And but Yagami comes in to see them, and he tells them, he said, look, it's a werewolf that's out there that's doing all this. And they're like, oh, will you just, what is this talk of werewolves? There's one way we can stop this. It's this flower. If Scotland Yard could find and nurture these flowers, we would stave off an epidemic. If we don't do it, London will become a shambles, he says, a shambles. But he's met Forsyth before, and Forsyth said, because they met at the party, Etty Coombs' party, and he's gone like, I've seen, yes, we've met before. I don't remember when it was or why it was. He said, yeah, we have met before. Yes, 7 years ago I came to you to say about this flower and the werewolves and all that. And he's like, no, yeah, I didn't believe you then, I don't believe you now. And they say that Dr. Yagami is a doctor from the University of Carpathia, the Carpathian Mountains. It's nice. It's a nice little touch. Don't mean a great deal, but it's a nice little touch. And but it's like, so this is the clever thing about this movie. You've got 2 werewolves, and one of them really, well, neither wants to be one. But Yagami struggled with it for a while, and he's like, I need these flowers, the antidotes. I've got to stave off these instincts. I don't want to kill, don't want to be this way. And he's gone to the police. He hasn't quite told them that he's one, but he's gone to the police, and he keeps on going back to Glendon's laboratory and nicking buds to try and save himself. Right. So anyway, things are proceeding aplomb, and they're looking for. Hang on, no. What's happened now? Oh yeah. Right. I know where we are. Wilfrid goes back home again, and and Hawkins. This bud hasn't bloomed yet, because they want that final bud to bloom, because that's going to be the antidote. Oh, it hasn't worked. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, Governor. We'll keep on using the moonbeam. We'll try. Oh, Hawkins, you've never failed me. Hawkins is the number failing the entire fucking time. You've never failed me. Thank you, and all this. And then he tries to be nice to his missus. Listen, Wilfrid, me and Paul are going for a moonlight ride. I think they mean in a carriage. I don't think they mean on horses. Although I don't know, they don't quite specify. We're going for a moonlit ride tonight. You can come with us if you want. It's like, what? You can't go out tonight. You know, because another full moon. You know, you can't go out tonight. I forbid you. And they have a big mad row. And the thing about it is, Valerie Hobson's superb here. I've seen a lot of flack for her because, well, he's getting nothing from her. She's just as much of a bitch to him as he's a bastard to her. Well, it's his fucking fault. He's an older, fucking twisted, bitter husband who's work obsessed and doesn't even look at her. So, and then someone who's paying her attention, what's she gonna do? And she goes like, I will ride tonight. You can't be out while the full moon is on. I will ride under the full moon, and I'll ride under the full moon tomorrow. In fact, I'll ride every night when there's a moon. And you can't do this. Yes, I can. You can't stop me. Don't go. I will go. And come on, Paul. Oh, fucking hell. Pretty bad. I should say that earlier on, just before that scene, that conversation, he has gone reluctantly, oh, yes, I'll come riding with you. And then when he's realized the bud hasn't opened, he's gone like, oh, shit. And he's changed his mind. No, you can't come out tonight. So that's all gone twisted round. But he realizes, look, if they're out in the full moon and I'm meant to kill the one I love, oh, shit. Better make myself scarce. So he goes off to, where does he go? He goes to Folden Abbey. Folden Abbey is her family's ancestral home. And he meets, he drives up in his own jalopy. Not sure how far away it is, like, but it's some distance away, in the middle of nowhere. Lovely building with a set with a matte painting behind it to give it more turrets and buildings and stuff like. And he arrives there, and he meets Timothy, who's the retainer. Oh, Mr. Glendon, sir. Oh, it's so good to see you. Oh, Mrs. Timothy will be so pleased. She'll cook you your favourite tea. No, Timothy, I can't be in the house tonight. I'm going to stay in the Monk's Rest, which is a tower in the grounds. I'll stay in the Monk's Rest, and you've got to promise me, you've got to lock me in there. Oh, Mr. Glendon, sir, I don't... Timothy, please. I like to be alone. I need to be alone and get away from everybody so I can think. You've been like that, haven't you, Timothy, he says. You've been like that when you've wanted to be alone and to think. Timothy's just a shotgun wielding fucking gameskeeper. And like, you know, he's like, oh, yes, sir. Oh, he thinks I have. I've changed his fucking accent there massively. They've got a dog. There's a dog there. Now, here's a fuck up. The cat didn't like him, and which is a huge thing. Like, he's the beast, you know, he's the scary beast. We can't see it, but the animals know. Well, this dog's fucking all over him. It's like, oh, hello, Sid. What his fucking name is. He's like, hello, it's good to see you. Oh, and all this. And the dog's all over him. What the fuck's that about? You fucked up your own continuity there. But he does go into the Monk's Rest, and like Timothy's played by Reginald Barlow. A lot of these are English actors who went to America. A lot of them are Americans who really worked on English accents. Got to remember, the 30s and 40s, English accents were, especially in genre movies, was important because you were aristocratic, you were noble. So Americans perfected English accents. Henry Hull definitely does it really well. I've been slamming his acting as a human, but great as a werewolf. But he's nailed the upper crust English boffin, twat, aristocratic nobility voice. Then he's in there, and he's like, I'll make a fire, Timothy. Don't worry about me. Just take the key, lock me in, come back in the morning. And the windows are barred as well. So he's there lying on this fucking slab. There's a fire going. He's got his hat and he's got his fucking big cloak and all that. And we have another transformation. And this is the full facial one. Now, Jack P. Pierce, I have read that he took four head casts of Henry Hull. So that what you would see would speed up the transformation. Instead of having someone there, weirdly enough, he fuck up on this with the Wolfman 6 years later. So you have the head cast and just film a couple of frames, a couple of seconds, put more fare on, put the underbite in, film another couple of seconds, and you film the transformation taking place. It'd be seamless on camera. And you haven't got the actor to lie there continually. Well, it works perfectly in this. And yet, in 1941 with Lon Chaney Jr., no. When you have the Lon Chaney, you don't see him change facially from man to wolf in the movie. You see him change at the very end from wolf back to man. But then, in Frankenstein Mr. Wolfman, you have the great transformation in the Cardiff hospital. And it's Chaney. And they have pins to keep his head secure for hours on end while they take a few shots and add more yak hair and then film a bit more, then more yak hair, then underbite. And it's him doing it. This was better. The makeup is better, and the actual procedure to deliver the transformation was better again back in 1935. And it looks great. He transforms and he wakes up. But again, you've got to remember, he's still human inside his brain to a degree. He can't stop himself from committing murders and his predatory instincts, but he's still aware of what he's become, and he doesn't like it. And he's like, oh shit, oh god. And then he goes to the window, the barred window, and looks out. He's gone to her ancestral home to avoid them being out on their moonlit fucking ride. He's gone miles out of his way, looks out the window, and there they are. They've driven up in Paul's jalopy. You know, I couldn't go back to America without seeing the old place one last time. That's where they used to their courting, in the family grounds of her house. And they've arrived there. Another coinky dink. Oh, you what? And you see the werewolf of outside London now going like, what? Can't I get a fucking break? He's like, oh, what are you doing here? He's like, oh no, oh man, that's not your fault. You really took yourself right out of the game there. And they fucking followed you? Oh dear God. But of course, and he, superhuman strength. He fucking breaks and bends the bars. And these two, he says, like, you know, I love you. I've always loved you. I always will love you. You're not happy with him. You're not happy with him. Please come away with me. You know. And she's like, oh Paul, I can't. You know, it's wrong. Don't do this, Paul. But you know she fucking wants it. You know we used to play hide and seek here. Yeah. Okay, let's play it again. I'll give you a 10-second head start. But he goes 6, 5, and she runs off. And way after the seconds would have elapsed, he suddenly runs after her. He's just giving it a bit of extra time there, he thinks. And she runs away. Anyway, he's there and he's watched. And he's like, argh. And she's by the wall below him. Remember he jumped out the window in the garret? And he fucking leaps. Oh, stuntman. It's a big stuntman leap. Way, ba-dum, down the deck. And again, shadow on the wall. Now, the shadow on the wall this time is this makeup. And she sees him and she goes, there's a really naff freeze frame here where they've gone like, right. Valerie, he's coming for you. Mouth open wide. Scream. Not yet. Now. And hold it for a minute. And like she goes, and she looks like a right horse. And she's gorgeous, but the teeth are like, I can't do it. I actually look better than she does. And he goes for it. And then, of course, Paul comes running up. What the hell's this? Who's this beast man? And these two, she falls unconscious on the deck. And, not dead, but the two, Paul and Glendon, have a fucking big tussle. Paul comes up with something. I don't know if it's meant to be a log or whatever. And he's like, boof, boof, bang, bang. And knocks the wolfman, the werewolf, out, who falls over a log like, ah. And he picks up, you know, Valerie, and they run off. And you cut immediately to fucking Paul Ames in Scotland Yard saying, it was Glendon. I recognise him. It was Wilfred Glendon. No, but this is ridiculous. It can't be. There's a wolf on the loose from the zoo, and blah, 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 blah. What? You just left? You clubbed the beast unconscious, and then you left? Why didn't you finish the job? Why didn't you truss him up? Put him in a fucking dungeon? Do whatever. You just left him there. You didn't call the cops from there and bring them. You didn't call the people from. You didn't call Timothy and his Mrs. Timothy. What absolute bullshit is that? That is naff writing. I'm afraid, folks. I love this movie, but it's got such elements which I cannot just let go. And this, literally nobody, no fucking person I've ever seen review or talk about this film has mentioned this element. It's ludicrous. Knocked him out. I've already beaten him, so I'm fucking bigger and harder than him. I can fucking do him in. They could have killed him. He attacked his missus. Attacked him. You'd be perfectly fine to club his fucking brains out, especially in 1935. You would be all right to do that. You couldn't do it now. You'd be massively in trouble. But because he might have issues, and you can't do that. The law will protect him. He's the murderer and the attacker. We'll protect him, not you. But they left him there. The fuck is that about? I say it was Wilfred Glendon, and Yagami's there. Yagami's back again, and they're going, look, it was. Hang on a minute. They're on about the wolf, aren't they? I think I've missed a bit out. They're talking about the escaped wolf and the girl that died in the zoo, and Yagami says, whether you catch this wolf or you don't, it won't stop the murders. There'll be more murders tonight, more murders tomorrow, and then next month. They get the cycle of the full moon wrong. The full moon can run for 3 days. It does not run for 4 days. It doesn't. But, does a werewolf really know? A bit of sliver of the moon is off. Like, well, maybe little Pinky hasn't turned fairy. So maybe, doesn't matter. But the cycle of the moon doesn't last for 4 days. Not the full moon. So, but they're going like, well, oh yeah, let's get this right now. It's the werewolf. Glendon is the werewolf. I told you, and this is what's happened. And suddenly, there's been another murder, and it's the chambermaid of Dr. Yagami. Now, earlier we've seen Lily, another flower, the chambermaid of Dr. Yagami, who's sitting there because he snipped the 2 buds, the 2 flowers, and he's kept them. So he's staved off 2 nights of werewolfery, right? You've got that, but one's dead, and Lily, and he's just at his desk like that. Oh, he's all tired, and Lily comes in and she goes, oh, it's all dead. This one, all crinkled up. Oh, but this one's alive. And he comes around from his desk. Leave it alone. Don't touch it. Oh, Mr. Yagami, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I just can't help but touch flowers. And he realizes, I've made a big tit of himself. Maybe overblown things. Gives her a couple of shekels, Go get yourself a bunch of flowers or a box of chocolates or whatever and just fuck off. But I'm sorry about I jumped at you. Anyway, Scotland Yard gets wind, there's been another murder. And it's Lily, the chambermaid. You didn't see it. And so they rush over there. Well, if Glendon's the werewolf, well, how come there's a murder here? Which is like 90 miles away. How come he can't be in 2 places at once? And like Paul Ames is like, shit. Yeah. And where is it? It's in a place, Dr. Yagami's apartment. Dr. Yagami, you say? So over they go, and there's a body on the chaise lounge, and you don't see it, but they pull up the thing. Yes, same lacerations there. And Paul Ames goes in the bin, do a bit of detective work himself. He's a Scotland Yard chief superintendent's nephew, don't you know? He finds that he remains with 2 flowers. He goes, these are dyed flowers. The flowers, do you think? The flowers that Yagami was talking about and Dr. Glendon's got? Right, we've got to find Dr. Yagami and Dr. Glendon. And then you get another really, really, really shit moment, which is a phone call montage. Paul Ames phoning Valerie Hobson. And her name's Lisa, but he calls her Lee. Oh, no one ever calls me Lee. No one's called me Lee for years. Well, I know you as Lee. This fucking romance and all that. He's like, Lee, are you all right? Have you barred the windows and locked all the doors? Yes, we're quite safe, yeah. And then in this montage, which goes on for about fucking 90 seconds, you've got like coppers saying, I haven't seen Dr. Glendon yet. No, Dr. Yagami. No one's passed the east sector. No one's done this. No. Keep looking. Anyone seen that? And it goes on, and you're like, oh, fuck off. And then you cut to Glendon's laboratory, and there's Hawkins there dicking about, you know, masturbating in the shrubbery. And then you hear this boom, boom, boom on the stone floor. And he goes, what's that then? And it puts the key in the air, and there's a trap door. And there's a hairy Glendon, Henry Hull, just unshaven, and it looks quite good actually. And he comes up like that. Ah, oh, Hawkins, thank you. Oh, my Mr. Glendon, what are you doing down here? You know, they've been looking for me, haven't they? Oh, they have. Yeah, they have. Well, don't tell them you see me. Oh, I won't. Don't you worry about that, Dr. Glendon. I won't. I'll say nothing. And don't tell Mrs. Glendon that you've seen me. Oh, I won't say nothing, Governor. Right, and how's our flower doing? Well, it's a very stubborn flower, but I think it's going to bloom. And they go to the laboratory, and fuck off, it's beginning to bloom. Oh, that's perfect. That's what, and it's beginning to get slightly itchy knuckles. And like, Hawkins, off you go, off you fuck. And of course, you've got Valerie Hobson, so his wife, and Etty Coombs are there, but they're meant to be locked in the house itself. And everyone's phoning up, are you okay? Everyone okay? We haven't found him yet. No, Dr. Yagami, blah, 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 blah. And like, he's like, oh, yes, it's bloomed. I can save myself for tonight. And then, you know, for the rest of the month, you'll be all right. Then fuck off back to Tibet and go and get some more flowers. So that's what you got to do. And but in a great do moment, Dr. Yagami comes down the steps behind him as he's like, oh, it's all there, it's great. And he goes and washes his hands for some unknown reason. And then he hears snip. It turns around, and Dr. Yagami, Werner Oland, has snipped the last blooming bud. And he's like, oh, you. He's like, and Yagami stabs himself with the stem. I'm going to be all right now for tonight. I won't be a werewolf. And he's like, you gave me this affliction. And Yagami goes like, well, I won't share anything else with you. And he goes to get off like, big Charlie Chan style, like, and fucking our boy leaps at him and they have a big mad tussle. And during the fight, our boy turns back into the Werewolf of London, and he scratches his face. He's like, and he strangles him. He's like, fucking bastard! You know, you did this to me. I'll fucking kill you. Doesn't say any of that, of course. Just snarls and spits. But he's like, it is traumatic. You just took my last chance. But of course, he knows who's up there, his wife. So off he goes, and of course they've heard all the tussle taking place. Chemical jars and laboratory equipment getting knocked everywhere, screams and scuffles. And Etty Spring Byington puts her ear to the floor. What's that? She's like, listen. She's like, ooh. I love her. I don't know why, but she really turns me on. I don't know why, I'll be honest, but she turns me on. And the older ones, you know, and she's got good figure on as well. She's pretty nifty. And and anyway, so they look out the window, and Glendon is coming across the lawn from the laboratory, and the big botanical thing, like, he's coming across the lawn like this. I'm like, oh shit. And he comes up the balcony. Now, these scenes here are what's cut into the attack on Etty earlier in the movie. The pause up the balcony, the iron balcony thing, the railing. That's all from the original because he should have his cap on and his jacket on and his collar's turned up, and he doesn't have the cap at all. So continuity is thrown to the wind because they changed that earlier sequence and they took out the original makeup and put this minimal makeup on. So there you go. And they lock the things, and he smashes through the glass, gets in there. But they've gone out and they've locked the door from the outside, led down the stairs, and he smashes through the door like pure Jack Nicholson style. Oh, Michael Myers, he's there, comes through. But they hear, and he's on the balcony inside now, atop the stairs, and they're like, ah! And then Ettie's called the cops. Oh, Colonel Forsyth is on his way to Glendon Manor right now. And he got these shots, which they can't be from this fucking movie. They're gonna be taken from some gangster movie of like a fucking, an old Ford fucking speeding around a country lane with two motorcycle cops with big sirens coming around the corner. An old London town, motorcycle cops. Never had 'em, folks. And then you get another shot from a different angle, the same thing from a different camera angle of this car coming out. He's heading to Glendon Manor right now. And Paul Ames is driving there too, and his jalopy, rakish moustache, bouncing across his face. Oh, must get there. Oh, that's kind of fucking shit, like. And he gets there first. But Glendon, Wilfred Glendon, hears all this, and he sees Paul arrive. Oh, you bastard. And he does a great bit of sort of Oliver Reed jumping. He jumps again from a roof to a roof, and he jumps off a roof onto Paul Ames. What's his fucking name? Lester Matthews. And he gets him on the deck, and he's actually straddling him from behind. It's a curious shot, to be honest. And he's kind of knocked him out, like. But the two women are like, ah! And they flee back into the house again and lock the door. And of course, he smashes the glass, opens the fucking door, comes in. Etty collapses, and he advances upon his wife, who retreats up the stairs. Wilfred, it's me. It's Lisa. It's Lisa. Her voice gets really high. Lisa. And he kind of pauses. You recognise me, don't you? Lisa. And he's like, and as he gets closer to her, the door opens, cops come in, bang! And automatic, you barely see the automatic. It's like, and he crumples and falls, and he falls down the stairs, and I'm presuming it's Henry Hull because he's in the makeup. It's not a stuntman. We'll talk about the stuntman in a bit. He comes down the steps, head first, and lands there, and Paul Ames has gone up, and he's like, holding the side of his head, and they get there, like, my God, Lisa, you all right? Yes, and then they all go. Oh, hang on a minute, I missed a bit out. I missed the most important bit out. The werewolf speaks. Yeah, upside down with an underbite. Fairy chops. And goes like, thanks. Thanks for the bullet. Thanks for the bullet. I'm in a few minutes, I will know all the answers as to why this happened to me. Lisa, I've always loved you. I'm sorry I couldn't make you happier. Dies. And they're like, oh no. And they look away. Look again. And they go, and he re-transforms back into Henry Hull, to Wilfred. Human. And and it is another fucking ultra ridiculous moment. Colonel Forsyth goes, in my report, I will state that I shot him by accident whilst he was trying to protect his wife. How is that going to hold any water? You shot him whilst trying to protect his wife. From what? What? So you're going to say there's a werewolf that was in here and he was trying to protect his wife from the werewolf and you shot him by mistake? Well, where's the werewolf then? Oh, is he still out there? Oh, what? Hey. Oh, by the way, there's a body down in the laboratory as well. You know, it's Dr. Yagami, or Dr. Yokohama, as Etty always called him. Yokohama. She gets everything fucking wrong. I love it. And it doesn't hold any fucking water. How are you going to dress this up? All these witnesses. You're going to... I'm going to say that I shot him by accident whilst he was trying to protect you, his wife. And what does his wife do in thanks? The film ends with a biplane, flying through the clouds. Now, cleverly, what it does do, it segs into the old Universal logo was the globe turning around, and a biplane flying around the air. That was the old Universal logo, and it kind of segs into that. But what is it? It's the happy ending. Remember, Paul Ames owns his own airfield and air fleet and planes and can travel the world. Oh, wouldn't it be great to be able to fly from San Francisco to Tokyo in the blink of an eye, says Valerie Hobson. And you've got this other, in the party at the start, the Botanical Society party, you've got this other old bint who says like, oh, it'd be jitter to go to Java, positively jitter to go to Java. I love to travel. Etty's going like, oh yes, jitter to go to Java, positively jitter. I love all this shit, like. So those elements are really great. But so his wife has fucked off with the guy. This is 1935. It's not like, oh, she's in mourning for this other guy. This is a dysfunctional family right from the word go. They don't get along. She's flirting with some other guy right in front of her husband's face. Doesn't give a shit. He's trying to protect her out of misguided love. And he's like, don't go out in the moonlight. Make sure you're back before the moon comes out. And like, no, I'll be out throughout the entire full moon. Tonight, tomorrow, every night it's a full moon. I don't care. No, Lisa, stay here. No, I won't. I'm going. Paul, come with me. She's thrown it right back in his face. He did fucking deserve it, though, to be honest. Because he's a cunt. And make reference to the music. The music for this is by a guy called Carl. It's either Hejos or Hayos. But I don't think he's not Mexican, so I think the J is actually probably pronounced. And it's a mix of classical music, Liszt, lay prelude, and sonata in B minor. But it's also elements of The Invisible Man and the Black Cat. Thank God for writing notes these days. But if you listen to this score, you will know that a lot of this would then appear in the Flash Gordon, Buster Crabbe film serials. A lot of it moves into that. Films from the 30s, 40s, and in the 50s would regurgitate and reiterate a lot of themes from other movies, other scores. Now, the homosexual angle, which has been written about quite extensively about this movie, covers, and if you don't look at it, you're never going to see it. But once you read it, you go, oh shit, yeah, it is. Wilfred Glendon is gay, and he doesn't love his wife. He loves the company of men and his obsession with plants. And there's tons of imagery which reflect this, and none so more than Yagami, two men with a secret which they can't tell the world about, but they both know, you know, and I know that you know that I know that we're both, and we've got to hide away. We can't come out the closet because persecution. It is there, and the way that he caresses the scar on Wilfred's arm, it's a strange, lingering moment. And there's other elements. The fact that he spends a lot of his life, which is alluded to by Etty and even the grandmother as well in the big party at the start. Like, well, he's never here for you. He's always away, in different. Hear the dog slurping water there. He's always away. He's never with you. There's no warmth. I've always warned you about marrying, a famous man and all this. And well, don't worry, you're going out in a minute. Just 1 second, folks. Mrs. Kiltman. just love it when no one answers you. This dog needs to go out. I love Whale for London. I think it's a vastly underrated movie. He is genuinely frightening as a werewolf. He's snarling, he's ravenous. His makeup is amazing. He's far scarier, far more active than Lon Chaney as the Wolfman. The Wolfman with George Wagner, you know how much I love that movie, is a dreamy, surreal fairy tale. This has a scientific angle, a bizarre sort of quasi expedition and police procedural and dysfunctional family relationships sort of story. There's a lot going on in this. The Wolfman is very, very simple, which is to its, its success. But this has so much more. It doesn't fulfill all of those options, but there's so much that does work. It's incident packed. You have comedy. If you're in the mood for the comedy, Mrs. Mac, Mrs. Moncaster, then it works. If you've got Hawkins and the butler into play, you've got the copper with his collapsed arches, then that works. If you're not in the mood for it, it's like, oh, fucking hell, you get on with the action. And yet the action is there. There's more kills in this. There's certainly more action. And your werewolf does a hell of a lot more. He's jumping around. He's smashing things down. He's doing all sorts. He's threatening. He's snarling. He's like, after victims. You know, Lon Chaney's The Lonster doesn't do a great deal. He kills one guy. Well, he kills Bela Lugosi, who puts the bite in. Okay, we get that. But he kills the gravedigger. That's it. Then he goes after Evelyn Ankers. And who wouldn't go after Evelyn Ankers? And he's throwing around. The two didn't get along. He's really throwing around like a strangler. And then, of course, his dad, diminutive Claude Rains. No way could Claude Rains sire the big, hulking, brooding, bulkish Lon Chaney. Something else I should say. Just make a cold tea before I start coughing again. Throat's gone dry. It's all that yakety yak. In that party at the start, that didn't work, did it? Etty and I don't know who the lad is. Another bit of the entourage. There's a Venus flytrap. She goes, "Oh, what's that beastly plant doing? It's got that poor delicate fly." He goes, "Well, it's gonna eat it, Aunt Etty." "Oh, it's horrific." And she walks up. "Can you show me that horrible Madagascar plant?" Madagascar plant. There's a Madagascar palm which grows huge, 30 to 40 feet. But it's not what you see in here. This is pure H.P. Lovecraft style fucking fauna and flora, I should say, not fauna. And like, curiously, you've got this big tentacled, horrible plant thing in its own enclosure, and everyone's gathered around it. Wilfred is there. This is a cut scene, by the way. There's a few cut scenes from it, and you can quite clearly tell something happened here. There's a poor kid who's like nursing his hand, and his mother's all like that about, looking after him. And they're kind of like, some of the people are smirking, like, you shouldn't have put your hand too close there, didn't you? And you've got this tentacled fucking thing, and they bring out a frog, and they put, it's feeding time for Matilda, whatever her fucking name is, and they put this frog in, and this vaginal plant orifice goes, "I'm having you." And Etty's like, it has a frog. And she goes, "It has a what? You tell him." And off she goes. Clearly there's a cut scene there because that kid is holding his hand like he's put his hand too close in. There's also cut scenes from Tibet. I've got stills from like an encampment there with Henry Hull and different characters who are not in the finished movie, obviously conversing and pointing and looking at things. So, but all films are like that. But it'd be nice to see what these were meant to be, where they're meant to lead up to. Motorcycle cops in 1930s England. Yeah, right, okay, yeah. Lycanthrophobia. What's the plant called again? Marophasa lumina lupina. I'm sure they reversed the last two parts of that later in the movie. Vasquez Rocks looks amazing. Doesn't look anything like Tibet, but it looks amazing. The score's wonderful. The editing's great. Cinematography is tremendous. John P. Fulton's photography between, you know, the pillars, and the way he just goes, and and it becomes more bestial. This is where Henry Hull works as a starched bastard. You know, you don't like him, you hate him. That could be intentional to a degree, but I think it goes beyond, and I think it alienates a lot of viewers from the movie because he's such an unlikable, unwarm, cold, elusive, aloof character. So you don't feel sympathetic. You feel sympathetic. For Larry Talbot, Lon Chaney, you feel nothing but sympathy, which is the whole point of it. Lon Chaney was in 1939, I think he made a version of John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. He played Lenny, and he got huge accolades and awards for it. So Lon Chaney Jr. could act. In that moment, can you show me that Madagascar plant? That horrible Madagascar plant, the one that eats mice and men. And this guy goes, mice and spiders, Aunt Etty. And well, John Steinbeck wrote Of Mice and Men 2 years, 1937, that got published. This is from 1935. But the point of both John Steinbeck's novel and the title of it, and what she says there, it's from Robbie Burns. Oh, hey, Robbie Burns from the Highlands, the great poet, the great fucking, huge folkloric hero. He wrote a poem of a mouse, I think it was called. And the line, which we all know, the best laid plans of mice and men go awry. They fuck up, like. And that's what this film's about. So it's like, she's not foreshadowing John Steinbeck. She's talking about Robbie Burns' poem. And that's a nice moment in a script which doesn't always congeal. But like, because scientists always have the best ideas. I'm going to pursue this, but it fucks up. Look at Seth Brundle in The Fly. Look at all the David Cronenberg scientists. Look at anyone who meddles with science in a sci-fi movie. It's all going to go horribly tits up for them, isn't it? They're going to transform. They're going to unleash a beast upon the world or a Holocaust. It always goes wrong. And that's, again, the best laid plans of mice and men go awry. And she says, it eats mice and men. That's a wonderful little touch. Whether they knew it, and I'm going with that they did, because I think it's too obvious, it's too on the nose to not be overt. So, Over London, 1935. It's underrated, it's forgotten about, it is sidelined a lot, and yet it does so many things right, it does a lot of things wrong. But I think it's wonderful. There's a lot of talk about the stuntman. It does Werner Oland play in Tibet, where you see the Kilroy was it, and then the big fight and tussle and the stab and the bite and all that. Is that him? No, it's not him. It's a fella called, I think his name's George de Normand, who's a stuntman. He is wearing the makeup and doing the actual fight. And then the fight between Werner Oland and Henry Hull at the end in the laboratory. They are both fighting there. You definitely see them there, but I think some of the tussles, which they're kind of rolling around, and that'll be stuntmen there. Eddie Powell was the Hammer stuntman. Eddie Parker was monster player and stuntman for Universal. He's involved in this somewhere, so he's in that sequence or other sequences somewhere. And you've got Henry Hull has not done these big leaps through the window and then off the barred window from the Nuns Tower, the Monk's Rest Tower, I should say, Nuns Tower. And so you've got stunts in this. There's a lot more going on in this movie than anyone ever gives it credit for. It's action packed. Within 20 minutes, you've been to Tibet, you've been to a laboratory, you've seen amazing technology, you've introduced to about, 15, maybe 20 people, and all their backstories and plots and conversations are all taking place. Crazy plants and weirdness in 20 minutes. It doesn't let up. Okay, you do get Mrs. Moncaster and Mrs. Whack. You do get that, but if you're in the mood for it, it works perfectly. Folks, I'm a massive, massive fan of this movie. It has its faults, without a doubt, but it's also tremendously good fun, and just a real vintage blast of savagery. Before the werewolf genre took off, this got there. Debatably, if the Wolfman hadn't happened, this would be the film which would be the one that spawned the genre and would be looked at and revered. But the Lonster got in there, courtesy of Mac, then brought in their silver bullets and all this sort of stuff, silver-headed cane, and history was written, and the genre has literally never looked back since then. So this film came before it, but sort of falls under the shadow, and yet it shouldn't do, because it's actually more action-packed. You've got a more frightening werewolf. You've got far more interplay and far more stuff taking place. The downside is, oh God, Lester Matthews is fucking god-awful. And Henry Hull, I don't care what anyone says, whatever he's done in other movies could be exemplary, but as a human, he's horrible. And no way on earth, I don't care what you say about the makeup, it says he should recognise me. You don't recognise him. To me, he doesn't look anything like Wilfred Glendon. The big widow's peak and the fucking eyes and the fucking big thing and the underbite and the big fat and fucking broken nose. That is not him. And plus, Etty said he had green eyes. Well, Wilfred Glendon clearly doesn't have green eyes. Glowing green eyes like the devil. So, you've got these things, but they don't detract. They make conversation, and if nothing else, these old movies, any movie really, should encourage debate. You don't want to just sit back and go, oh, well, that was great. Now should we go for a pint, get a pizza, hey, whatever. Or go for a walk, whatever. Go and steal a boat, you want to be able to sit and talk about movies. What do you think about that? Did you think, what was the modus operandi there? What was the character they were trying to deliver with this element? Do you think that worked? Did he lose it? Did he drop the plot element there? You like to discuss things. I do. I'm a fucking annoyance, to be honest. I'm sure you've noticed. And these older films, they're not above all this. In fact, they're open to more discussion and analysis, because a lot of things get taken out and scripts change all the time. And films like this, especially with the background stories of Henry Hull and other bits and bobs, and maybe subtext from, because I say the guy who wrote the screenplay was a gay man who kept it secret, and he's talking about men who are keeping a secret. Yeah, I read this thing which was I thought, oh my, I've never seen a film in that light, and I thought, oh my God, that kind of makes sense. That he was basically exposing homosexuality in an era when you simply couldn't do it, but he did it in the nature of a horror movie using monsters. Well, that's kind of clever, isn't it? In many ways. But hey, folks, that's Werewolf of London for you. Another vintage classic in time for Halloween. So please, drink your cold tea. Oh God, I've done 2 hours, 8 minutes without any whiskey. I don't recommend it. Whiskey's always best. I'm just looking at the other little notes. I made a few notes, but thanks. Thanks for the bullet. I want to be alone to think. You've wanted to do that, haven't you, Timothy? You wanted to be alone to think. Timothy's going yeah, I go to the Monk's Rest and I just crack one off, when Mrs. Timothy's not in the mood. Folks, you haven't got to look at things like that, but if you really sit back and go, hang on a minute, what are you implying there? There is subtext. And people didn't just write these knee-jerk quickies. They did think, these were writers. They were trying to get their product out there. I want to make this movie, but I want to get other movies. And I've got a little agenda I want to try and put out there. And I might get some bigger projects because of what I'm unveiling. I'm secretly pushing under the tarpaulin, out of the canvas of the tent, And I think there is something to it. You can make up your own minds. I don't care. Simply jitter to go to Java. Simply jitter. Murderers on one side, pubs on the other. It's great. Oh, there's another great moment. And it's Henry Hull being a complete twat yet again. Because when he discovered his hand turned hairy, he's like, he puts it on his back like, Hawkins, fuck off. Go and make some tea, but bugger off and leave me alone. And he manages to stave it off with the plant. And obviously he's distressed and he is changing. Something's going on. And his missus comes in with Paul Ames and they're going to that party. And she's going like, Wilfred, are you coming to the party? No. And he put the lights on. He goes, what's he say? I wrote it down. Oh, God. Put up those beastly lights, I tell you. Put up those lights, damn you. And he's like, oh. And I'm like, Wilfred, you horrible bastard. And he goes, oh, no, my eyes are sore. I've put some medication in them and it's reacting with the lights. And she goes, I just wanted to see my new coat. And he's like, I do love you. I do. Just be careful. He doesn't love her at all. He wants his mate he went to Tibet with. That's why they went off for months and months and months in Tibet. And that's why the priest is going like, yeah, I've met men like you. You're going to the Forbidden Valley. Yeah, you're going to go over the ravine and up the Forbidden Valley. And he says something like, what's he saying? I don't know any man that's wanted to go there, but I don't know a single man that's ever come back from there. It's completely veiled with subtext and metaphor and allegory, Folks, that dog has to go out and I've got to do it. So folks, in the meantime, and it's ever like Werewolves of London, which is based on this movie. It was based, Darren Zevon, was it, in the 74, 75, and he wrote, well, as a joke novelty song, he wrote Werewolves of London. And it's a satire about a well-dressed, what would be a yuppie, but a well-dressed twat about town who's preying on older women and he's using them and abusing them. Werewolves of London is, the guy that came up with the idea had seen this movie and he went, Werewolf of London, we could do a song about this, and that became a smash hit, Werewolves of London. Oh, in between time. So folks, I have been Shabby Kiltman, so please just take it easy, be yourselves, and watch out for people with severe underbites and wearing great big oversized hats with the collars turned up. Can't trust them. You can't trust cat people, you can't trust wolf men. I love animals. Oh. And I'm going to take the dog out now, and my dog is the husky from The Thing. You can't trust animals, I tell you. Take it easy. Laters.